Who doesn't love Sonic's fast-paced and fun-filled adventures? Although his universe is often full of action and happiness, there are moments that break that mold, taking fans through much darker and more emotional stories than usual. Get ready, because today I'll take you through the darkest moments that have marked Sonic's history. Cyber corruption in Sonic Frontiers. Frontier stands out as a game that explores a much more mature and serious narrative. After surviving cyberspace, Sonic faces the mission of rescuing his friends, who are trapped in different dimensions. However, there's a price to pay for each rescue. Every time Sonic saves someone, he absorbs a mysterious cyber energy that, while helping him move forward, also begins to corrupt him. Little by little, Sonic becomes physically and mentally weaker, to the point where he becomes completely immobilized. This scene is brutal. Sonic, the hero who never stops, ends up in a vegetative state. His friends, now at a loss, don't know what to do and feel indebted to Sonic, who just saved them at the cost of his own life. Even though this is a very dark scene, Sonic eventually overcomes the situation. The sacrifice and internal struggle he faces makes it one of the darkest moments in Sonic history. The fallen troops in Sonic Forces. In Sonic Forces, we face the ruthless Infinite, a villain whose cruelty surpasses anything seen before in the franchise. At the beginning of the game, right after creating our character, we witness a deeply disturbing memory. A group of soldiers bravely confront Infinite, but he mercilessly takes them down one by one. The scene might seem brief, but if you take a moment to analyze it, the impact is enormous. Our character, the sole survivor, carries the trauma of watching their companions fall in a completely uneven battle, possibly losing his friends as well. The pain, survivor's guilt, and fear are emotions the game subtly hints at, but upon reflection, they leave a sense of emptiness. Sonic sadness in Lost World. Although Sonic Lost World aimed to offer a lighter experience, its narrative takes a turn that makes it much more emotional. During the game, Sonic loses his friends one by one. Tails, Amy, Knuckles, and even Dr. Eggman sacrifices himself to save Sonic. Sonic now feels completely sad and powerless, with no one by his side. What's interesting here is how the game reflects this loss in its design. At first, the levels are bright, colorful, and optimistic, but as the game progresses, they become darker, more unsettling, and melancholic. Sonic, who always remains positive, begins to break down emotionally. And although we later discover that Eggman had planned everything as a big trap, the somber tone dominating much of the story leaves a lasting impression. The post-apocalyptic future of Silver. Silver, the time traveler, comes from a devastated future, 200 years ahead to be exact, a world where chaos and destruction are the norm. This character, who always strives to do good, carries one of the most tragic stories in the franchise. Silver not only lives in a ruined world, but he also bears the responsibility of traveling to the past to try to save the future. What makes this even more impactful is that his story reminds us that, even after the sacrifices of Sonic and his friends, the world eventually succumbs to chaos. This backstory adds to the layer of depth and sadness that makes him one of the most complex and dark characters in the series. Merlina's fear in Sonic and the Black Knight. Merlina, the sorceress from Sonic and the Black Knight, is one of the most interesting antagonists in the franchise. Her motivation isn't power or evil, but fear, an existential fear of death and the end of everything she loves. This fear drives her to try to create an eternal world, free from death and suffering. Sonic, of course, tries to stop her, but the ensuing battle is one of the hardest and most painful he has ever faced. Merlina, driven by her fear, doesn't give up easily. What makes this story so impactful is its central theme, the fear of death, something we can all relate to, something we've all feared at least once in our lives. In the end, Sonic leaves us with a valuable lesson. The beauty of life lies in enjoying it to the fullest, precisely because it's fleeting. Shadow kills Dr. Eggman. In Shadow the Hedgehog, the player can choose between heroic, neutral, or villainous decisions, leading to a variety of endings. In one of the darkest, Shadow, along with Omega, faces Dr. Eggman in a final battle to obtain a Chaos Emerald. After defeating him, we see a side of Shadow rarely shown. Without remorse, he ends Eggman's life.
Goodbye, Doctor!
This moment is not only shocking for what it implies, but also highlights Shadow's colder, more calculating side, an anti-hero willing to do anything to achieve his goals. The death of Sonic. One of the most impactful moments in Sonic history occurs in Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. This event is one of the darkest in his story, as we witness the death of our favorite hero on screen. Princess Elise carried the soul of Iblis within her, and if she cried, the seal containing Iblis would break. Mephiles knew this very well, so to ensure Iblis' release, he mercilessly kills Sonic, causing Elise to cry, allowing Mephiles to merge with Iblis and bring chaos to the world. The scene is heartbreaking. Sonic falls lifeless and his friends are forced to confront this reality while Elise, devastated, weeps over his loss. Although Sonic is eventually revived, the emotional impact of seeing him fall is something fans will never forget. The Metal Virus Saga. The darkest saga in the history of Sonic. This story is filled with despair, frustration, and countless losses, a tale where the heroes must remain psychologically strong, making quick, yet incredibly difficult decisions. They now face a threat entirely beyond their control. The Metal Virus is a biological weapon created by Dr. Eggman, one of his most effective schemes in history. This virus spreads easily, infecting every living being it touches. The disease gives its victims a robotic appearance, giving rise to the name Zombots. Zombots cannot be hurt, are extremely resilient, and as soon as they touch you, you're instantly infected. If you ever delve into this story, be prepared. Each chapter is darker than the last. As a pure survival narrative, Sonic's typical heroism doesn't stand a chance. This is such a dark story that it contains many disturbing moments within it. I highly recommend you to check it out for yourself. Today, I'll tell you about two of the darkest moments in the Metal Virus saga. Shadow's downfall in the Metal Virus. Shadow has always been a complex character, an anti-hero torn between good and evil, but in the Metal Virus comics, his darkest side takes over completely. While Sonic and his friends desperately fight to save everyone, Shadow takes a vastly different approach. To Shadow, the infected are nothing more than obstacles, pawns to be eliminated without mercy. His philosophy is simple: the strong survive, the weak fall. This attitude puts him in direct conflict with Sonic, who continues risking everything to save the infected, even when it seems impossible. The most shocking moment comes when Shadow faces a group of Zombots who were once his allies. Rather than seeking a solution, he decides to eliminate them one by one, declaring them beyond salvation. This moment showcases just how far Shadow is willing to go to fulfill his vision of duty, leaving the audience wondering if he has completely lost his humanity. What's most disturbing is knowing that Shadow doesn't always uphold Maria's powerful message. This leaves us questioning whether we can ever fully trust him. Cream's trauma in the Metal Virus saga. Cream the Rabbit is one of the most adorable and innocent characters in the Sonic universe. She has always represented hope and kindness, even in the darkest moments. But in the Metal Virus comics, her perfect world crumbles entirely. The most heartbreaking moment occurs when Vanilla, Cream's mother, is infected by the virus. Cream tries to save her, but the virus is relentless, leaving no room for mistakes. Imagine this: Cream, just a child, holding her mother's metallic hand as the virus fully consumes her. Realizing there's no other choice, Sonic forces Cream to flee before she, too, becomes infected. The young rabbit doesn't want to leave her mother behind, but Sonic insists, practically dragging her away as tears stream down her face. This moment is specifically dark because it shows that even the youngest and most innocent characters are not safe from tragedy in Sonic's world. Cream, who has always believed in the goodness of everyone, now faces a harsh reality where not everything can be saved. Each chapter of this comic intensifies the horror, revealing how even the strongest characters can break when faced with an unstoppable threat. These moments show that Sonic's universe can be far deeper and darker than it seems at first glance. Which of these moments impact you the most? Let me know in the comments.